This is the Shifa Complex Hospital. This is the biggest hospital in the Gaza Strip, and that is why deliberately Hamas chose to position its headquarters and one of its main nodes inside this hospital. Here what we're seeing is the main entrance to the Al-Shifa hospital. And what you're seeing here are a civilian of not an Israeli nationality that was kidnapped brutally from Israel and brought to the Shifa hospital to be held. We need to start with October 7. That was a horrific day of a massacre carried out by the Hamas terrorists that invaded Israel in a surprise attack and killed over 1,200 Israelis and other nationalities. They also sadly kidnapped over 200, now it's 237 hostages that are still being held on the day 43 since they launched this massive and gruesome attack on Israel on October 7th. Today, we're sharing with you more information about how Hamas carries out its terrorist activity. We have set two goals for this war. The first goal is to dismantle Hamas. We're carrying out military activity to bring to the dismantlation of the Hamas capabilities, military and administration. The second goal that the political echelon has given us is to bring back the hostages, 237, as I mentioned, for 43 days that have been held by Hamas. We need to remember, the best and the safest way for them to come home is for Hamas to just release them. The international community needs to continue in pressure in any way that they can so that Hamas releases them. I remind us all also that till this moment, no Red Cross or any other organization has been allowed by Hamas to see how they are, see if they need any medicine or anything else, and sadly, that's the situation that we are in. Today, what we will see is how Hamas has its MO, committing a double war crime, hiding behind civilians, deliberately positioning itself in civilian infrastructure, be it schools, houses, clinics, mosques, and hospitals, and second, continuously carrying out a second war crime, aiming to kill civilians the whole time. Throughout these 43 days, Hamas has launched over 10,000 rockets at Israeli civilians. Every day, we have sirens in Israel that are of incoming fire by Hamas that have injured many Israelis, and this is a constant threat that we are dealing with. So two main goals that we have for this war. One is to dismantle Hamas. Two is to bring back the hostages. And two actions that Hamas continuously carries out through two war crimes. One, hiding behind civilians and using them as human shields and continuously trying to kill civilians, Israelis and other nationalities that are here in Israel. Today we have exposed some meaningful ways to see how Hamas really carries out its MO. What is the systematic behavior that it does? Specifically within hospitals, we've shown you already in the Rantisi hospital and in the Al-Quds hospital how they have arms inside, how they had hostages inside, how they use the hospital as their place to hide, using the ill and the sick in the most cynical ways. Specifically, as you may see now on the screen, this is the Shifa Complex Hospital. This is the biggest hospital in the Gaza Strip, and that is why deliberately Hamas chose to position its headquarters and one of its main nodes inside this hospital. I'm going to show you a few different things inside the hospital that we have exposed. First, weapons located inside the Shifa hospital. As you can see here, we found AK-47s, RPGs, rifle assault weapons, vests, intel resources, communication resources, anything that is needed in order to plan an attack and be able to manage it and command it and to carry it out from the hospital, and also to come back from the attacks to hide inside the hospital, as I will show you in just 1 second. So these are the materials that we found. The second thing that we have exposed tonight is a very meaningful part of the whole complex and how it is used as a base. What you're seeing here now is the complex. In front of us, the big building is the Qatari department of the hospital. And in that red part, that is the shaft that goes down into the tunnel. What you're going to see now is two different techniques that we took pictures of this tunnel, this terror tunnel that goes underneath the hospital. We're now going to start going down. These are a long shaft of stairways that is going down into the underground tunnel. Now you're going to see how they build these stairs that we have exposed from the center of the Shifa hospital. And we're continuously going down using one technique, and that's back to the shaft looking up. And now you're going to see how the tunnel, a cement tunnel that was built by the Hamas terrorists again and again. Sadly, we know how they took this cement, put it in the ground instead of building more schools and hospitals and kindergartens and everything for their civilians. Sadly, they dumped it into the ground. And here what we're going to see is how the tunnel now continues for 50 meters, more than 150 feet, that it continues underneath the ground, connecting to different parts of this massive terror network that is hundreds of miles across the whole Gaza Strip, and specifically inside here, the Shifa hospital. Again, this is showing how they walk through these tunnels, reach different shafts and piers that are outside of the hospital, carry out terrorist activity, either launching rockets or attacking soldiers, and then coming back through these tunnels to hide underneath the hospital. So what we're seeing is how they can move inside, and then we're reaching a blast door. You can see in the center of the blast door a firing hole that you can open and shoot with a rifle if needed. And that blast door is now where we are reached in our exposure. How did we get to this part? Special units of a special force that have been trained specifically to carry out these very, very sensitive and based on very accurate intel and information. We came into the hospital and we're looking for these specific things. And here's another thing that we found inside the hospital. This car, similar to what was used on the October 7th massacre, and massive amounts of ammunition that were in the car and around it. You can see AK-47s, RPGs, a lot of other ammunition that was used. Sickening way, on top of this car was booby-trapped. Now, imagine the thought behind what does it mean to booby-trap a car that is in the center of a hospital complex. They did not only want to kill Israeli soldiers that they knew that were coming there. They were willing and deliberately wanting also the patients and the staff that is in the hospital to get hurt in that event. And that's the sickening, again, behavior that Hamas positions itself deliberately in these civilian infrastructure, knowing that they can both hide in it and use it for their psychological, gruesome warfare to show how civilians get hurt. More footage. This one specifically is from October 7th, that horrific morning that Hamas carried out its gruesome, barbaric acts. And what we're seeing here is the terrorists that came back from carrying those terrorist activity into the Shifa hospital, using it again as its base to come back to the command center, but also, as we can see now in the pictures, they're bringing in with them hostages. This is a Jeep that they stole from Israel, and here's another car that they also stole from Israel. And here what we're seeing is the main entrance to the Al-Shifa hospital. And what you're seeing here are a civilian of not an Israeli nationality that was kidnapped brutally from Israel and brought to the Shifa hospital to be held. Also, we're seeing here another movie that we will see another civilian that was brought in and also held in a brutal and gruesome way by Hamas, bringing in their AK-47s and carrying in a civilian to hold him as a hostage here in the hospital. Now, as I mentioned before, our forces that came to discover and follow through with both our missions to dismantle Hamas and to bring home the hostages. We're following through on very specific intelligence, and we came into very specific areas. We brought with us Arabic speakers and medical staff so that we can mitigate in the best way this very, very complicated situation. Thanks to this professionalism, we were able not to have any kind of friction with the medical team. On top of that, we were able to facilitate what the medical team said that they need in the hospital. We brought with us medicine, we brought with us water, we brought with us prepared food, and we're continuously talking to them about what they need in the hospital so that we can bring it. We've also facilitated specific areas that are the safer parts, the eastern part of the Shifa hospital, so that the patient and the staff that can leave should leave, and they're leaving through that area to safer areas in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. So we facilitate them, if they choose to leave, that they can leave from that eastern part. And that's something that we continuously communicated to the medical staff and the directors of the hospital. Sadly, we also know that on October 7th, Corporal Noah Marziano was also kidnapped from Israel. She was brought to the hospital similar to what we saw of the other hostages. And we know that the previous Thursday, 10 days ago, she was murdered inside the hospital when Hamas was holding her there. We found her body, we brought it to Israel, and now she's being buried. And of course, we send our deepest condolences to her family, and we will continue following through with them, and may her memory be of blessing. What we try to share with you today here is more of how Hamas systematically uses the civilian infrastructure, how they use the schools, the mosques, and specifically here, the hospitals, to carry out their gruesome terrorist activity. They have it as a command center, as a control center, as a place to hide hostages, as a place to sadly murder and kill. We hope that very soon we will be able to uphold both of our missions and bring back the 237 hostages that are still being held in Gaza on the day 43, and to really dismantle Hamas in a way that not only will bring more security to the people of Israel, but will also bring a safer and better life for the Palestinians living in Gaza.